After giving birth, my body shape changed drastically. My husband claimed he didn't mind, yet kept comparing me to my best friend Su Xiang. We're both women, how come you got fat, ugly, and saggy after having a baby? Damn, if I'd married Su Xiang instead, life would have been so much better. Even when I had a heart attack and begged for his help, he pretended to be asleep and ignored me. After death, I was reborn back to the day Shen Mo confessed his feelings to me. I pushed Su Xiang forward. Stay away from me, you two are perfect for each other. 1. On the day Shen Mo's company went public, he invited many classmates to celebrate. She even invited Su Xiang, the best friend who cut ties with me over him. What a coincidence, Su Xiang and I showed up at the same time. I was wearing a simple, loose-fitting t-shirt. Meanwhile, Su Xiang had flawless makeup and a fitted off-shoulder dress. The black dress clung to her curvaceous figure. She looked even more alluring than before. All eyes turned to Su Xiang, Shen Mo being no exception. After a long pause, Shen Mo strode over and snapped at me with a stern face. About time you showed up, keeping everyone waiting. How shameless can you be? Then he turned with a smirk toward Su Xiang, gesturing like a perfect gentleman. You're late, princess. We've all been waiting. Your seat's ready. The classmates erupted in teasing, nobody sparing a glance at me behind Shen Mo. No one remembers the version of me that once outshone everyone here. Had I not married Shen Mo and been coaxed into being a housewife, I could have been just as poised and eloquent today. The stark contrast made me feel utterly wronged. Shen Mo suddenly turned and snapped at me. Stop gawking. I told you not to come, now you're making a spectacle of us. That roar finally made people notice me. Well, if it isn't our class's top student in beauty, goodness, Sushi. How did having a baby turn you into this? I barely recognized you with all that weight and, well, let's just say motherhood hasn't been kind. Su Xiang's mockery was merciless. The way he groveled after Shen Mo back then is exactly how sarcastic he's being now. Our class beauty is so confident, never worrying about her figure at all. Not like me. I've been a complete mess since giving birth. She gave me a once-over with disdainful sidelong glances. I stood frozen in place, utterly mortified. I looked helplessly at Shen Mo, praying he'd speak up for me. His expression shifted several times before he came over and shoved me out. He looked at me with disgust and snapped, "We're both women, how come you turned ugly, fat, and saggy after having a baby? Why do other women smell so nice while you reek of sour milk? You knew today was my company's IPO. I told you not to come, but you had to show up. Are you deliberately trying to humiliate me? Besides, could you even keep up with their conversations? Do you understand what they're talking about?" Not a single mention of Su Xiang, yet every word was about her. My heart clenched with a dull ache. Seeing me clutching my chest, he snapped impatiently, "Enough with the act. Hurry home, Mom just said Lele has a stomachache." The moment I heard my son had a stomachache, I dropped everything and rushed home without another word. 2. When I got back, I realized Shen Mo had lied to me yet again. I let out a bitter laugh. After all these years, he still knew exactly how to manipulate me. A lump of frustration tightened in my chest, sharpening the pain. Thinking about all these years of devotion, I felt so wronged I couldn't sleep. Determined to have it out with Shen Mo when he got back, he stumbled home drunk past midnight, pressing me down with liquor-fueled passion as his lips found mine. This was his first initiative since I'd given birth. I figured he realized he'd crossed the line tonight, and this was his way of making amends. Just thinking about it made most of my anger fade away, but his hand froze when he felt the flab on my belly. Sushi, we're both women. How come Su Xiang still has a flat stomach after giving birth? She smells so nice. Why do you have this disgusting fishy stench? Look at yourself. You're no better than a pig. We're both women. Why do you have to be so repulsive? He suddenly stiffened with resistance, pushing me away and shifting to the very edge of the bed. My whole body burned with frustrated desire, leaving me utterly miserable. Shenma muttered resentfully under his breath, "If only I'd married Xiang Su back then, life would be so much better now." In that instant, it felt like a knife had pierced my heart, sending waves of excruciating pain through me. "Shenma, it hurts." He clicked his tongue in annoyance, not moving an inch. "Help me." My voice trailed off weakly. He snapped impatiently, "Aren't you too old for these childish games? You're disgusting. Look at yourself in the mirror. You think you're some 20-year-old girl. Stop making me sick." I slowly suffocated to death beside the person I believed loved me most. Even as my soul detached and hovered midair, he never once turned to look at me. Perhaps my death was too pathetic. Even heaven took pity and granted me a second chance at life. When I opened my eyes again, Shin Mo stood before me with flowers, confessing his love. 3. Sushi, give me one chance, I'll treat you right forever, no matter what happens, I'll never leave you, you'll always be my little princess. The sunlight stung my eyes. After just a dazed moment, I realized I'd been reborn. Hearing Shin Mo's words again, I was suddenly overcome with nausea, lost in thought. I suddenly heard Suseong gasp behind me. Did I just come back? One look into her eyes told me she'd been reborn too. No surprise, in her past life. Suseong had married some rich old man out of vanity. Little did she know, that old bastard turned out to be a violent abuser. That night, Seong-su went out dressed like that and came back reeking of alcohol. I wasn't the least bit surprised when she got beaten to death. What? Shin Mo froze for a second, asking blankly while giving me a complicated look. Snapping back to reality, I took a step back and pushed Seong-su forward. She's had feelings for you forever. We're best friends, I can't steal what belongs to her. Stay away from me from now on. Didn't you want to marry her? In this lifetime, I'll grant your wish. As Seong-su's longtime best friend, I know all too well about her lazy, gluttonous, and overly ambitious nature, but she's genuinely had feelings for Shin Mo for years. In my past life, just because I agreed to be with Shin Mo, she completely cut ties with me. She even spread vicious rumors that I'd been someone's kept woman. The gossip spiraled out of control. Over this mess, my family disowned me completely. We never spoke again. Shin Mo, who kept swearing his trust in me before marriage, started nitpicking about my lack of family support countless times after we wed. If I get another life, I'll make sure you taste this bitterness too. Why yes, Shin Mo, I've liked you for so long. Suseong suddenly grabbed the flowers and blurted out with flushed courage. Then she whispered in my ear, this time, I won't hold back. If it weren't for you in my past life, I wouldn't have been beaten to death. I caught Shin Mo in my peripheral vision, looking utterly bewildered. Well, we'd been dancing around each other for ages before he confessed, just never put it into words. Everyone already treated us like an established couple. No wonder he assumed I'd jump at the chance to say yes. I suddenly called out to Qinglin, who happened to be passing by. Hey Qinglin, let's take graduation photos together tomorrow. Everyone froze in surprise. No one expected the class belle like me would actually ask plain-looking Qinglin for a photo. Qinglin stood there dumbfounded, his face turning crimson before he finally stammered out ashore and bolted away. At this time, Qinglin was just an average-looking student with mediocre grades, practically invisible in class. But the future Qinglin would become someone far beyond everyone's reach. Clearly, Suseong didn't recognize him, or perhaps she never knew this Qinglin would become the titan dominating the business world. Shin Mo, how can someone who flirts around like that be worth your affection? She's only good enough for that socially awkward bookworm who can't even string a sentence together. Hearing this, Shin Mo's pride took a direct hit in that moment. He gritted his teeth. Sushi. What exactly are you implying? I bolted out of there in a flash. How boring. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and many children. Back in the dorm, I threw away everything related to Shin Mo. None of the gifts he gave me were particularly valuable. Just some postcards and little trinkets like mugs, but in my past life, I guarded them like treasures. Even Xuxiang got upset with me over it. Now, the mere sight of them turns my stomach, staring at that pile of junk. I stomped on it with vicious satisfaction. Suseong happened to witness this scene upon her return. She cut straight to the chase. Sushi, I know you've been reborn too. This time, I won't go easy on you. Have some self-awareness and stay away from Shin Mo. Clutching that bouquet, she looked like a rabid dog guarding its meal. I laughed. Don't worry, I'd be thrilled if he disappeared to the ends of the earth. May you two be stuck together forever. Never separate, she chuckled. Relax. Shin Mo and I will be perfectly happy after we're married. Did you know Shin Mo publicly mocked you that night, calling you a fat, ugly pig? Sushi, let's be honest, it's downright disgusting how much you've let yourself go after having a child. Forget about someone as accomplished as Shin Mo. I bet even someone like Qinglin would look down on you. Last time around, you completely humiliated Shin Mo. Don't worry, this time I'll make sure everyone envies him. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, brimming with confidence about the future. She seemed to have forgotten that at this point, Shin Mo was still that penniless nobody. Little did she know, Shin Mo's success in our past life was built on my silent support, countless sleepless nights, endless social drinking, and humiliating favors. I bore them all alone. When the company finally stabilized, I gave birth to our child. Shin Mo then claimed he didn't want me overworked. insisting I should just stay home to care for our child. I did hesitate, knowing how vicious and difficult my mother-in-law could be, but Shinemo insisted. Children raised by others won't bond with their parents. Having been raised by my grandmother myself, I truly never developed much affection for my parents. With that single remark, Shinemo played me perfectly. I willingly became a housewife, snapping back to reality. Suseong added, I'd never be as stupid as you. Perfect, in that case. I'll give you a helping hand. I picked up Shinmo's gift and shoved it at her. Go tell Shinemo he's just a charity case student who scavenges for meals. He's not good enough for me. Tell him to stay away. I knew Shinemo had immense pride. These were precisely the things that cut him deepest. With Suseong exaggerating the story and sweet-talking him a bit, he'd definitely try to prove himself by staying with her. That night, after Suseong left, I hesitantly said to my roommate with feigned hesitation, well, since we've graduated, there's something I should tell you, but you've got to promise to keep it quiet. 5. This semester, I've seen Suseong getting out of that old man's car multiple times. She asked me to go with her to the gynecologist just the other day. Shoo, you mustn't breathe a word of this to anyone. In my past life, Suseong spread rumors in the dorm the very night Shinemo confessed to me. The difference is, hers were lies. But everything I'm saying is true. Since college, Suseong had been kept by several sugar daddies. It's also true that she sneaked off to a gynecologist recently. If she can fabricate stories, I certainly can tell the truth. The next day during graduation photos, Shinemo showed up holding Suseong's hand. My classmates all cast pitying glances my way, yet I kept chasing Qinglin around, snapping photos from different angles. Shinemo shot me a look and said petulantly, Suseong and I are getting married right after graduation. We'll treat you all to the wedding banquet. Ah, Suseong gasped, then bashfully lowered her head and gave Shinemo a playful tap. You rascal, you caught me completely off guard. The onlookers forced awkward yet polite smiles. Congratulations. I couldn't help but scoff inwardly. What a truly momentous occasion this was. After taking photos, I dashed back to my dorm to pack my bags. Every second I had to look at that despicable pair made me sick. I wished I'd never lay eyes on them again, but Shinemo slipped in right after I entered the dorm room. Sushi, have you lost your mind? Why aren't following last lifetime script? Me, could it be, one damn drink and I drop dead, only to wake up in this godforsaken era. I've had enough of this, and now you're giving me the silent treatment. What's your problem, did he get reborn too? 6. Don't you want to get back to those good old days sooner? The knot in my chest suddenly came undone in that instant. Since you're reborn too, this just got more interesting. Shinemo, you're the one who said marrying Suseong would have been better. Now I'm making your dream come true this lifetime. What more could you possibly want? You actually believe all that drunken nonsense I said. Come on, guys say stupid shit when they're drunk. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Are you dense? We made it big together in our past life. If we team up again for this bigger opportunity, we'll be unstoppable. Turns out he's only ever cared about himself, too scared to take risks. He just wants me to suffer through it all over again with him. He knows success is guaranteed with me by his side, but with Suseong, that's a gamble. Given a second chance, if I fall for his tricks again, I'd lose all self-respect. I've endured this far, there's no turning back now. Shinemo, not only will I never be with you in this lifetime, but I'll make sure you realize that without me, you're still that pathetic stray scavenging for scraps. No output as the provided text is empty or contains only a non-printing character. He froze momentarily before snapping, what a joke, who the hell do you think you are? The only reason I sought you out is because we worked together in our past life. Consider this a favor. You actually think I can't make it without you? Mark my words, I'll be even more successful without you. Just wait and see. Watching Shinmo kick over the chair and storm out in fury. What future would you have without me? Shinmo, in our past life I never wronged you. I even lowered my standards for you multiple times. Yet you made me feel like some cheap, foolish doormat. I smiled. Do you really think I'd let you mock me with that polished smile in this lifetime? The irony was, Shinemo had barely stepped out when Suseong barged in. She confronted me. What lies have you been feeding Shinemo about me? 7. Me, you had your turn last lifetime, now it's mine. Don't you dare ruin this for me. I laugh, enjoying this. In my past life, I joined Shinmo's startup right after graduation, to save money. We lived in a basement surviving on nothing but stale instant noodles. I was so worn out during that period I turned sallow and even my period became irregular. Even after we became well off, I remained the one handling all household chores, because Shin Mo said he wouldn't trust anyone else with our home. On top of dealing with that difficult mother-in-law, I was constantly on the go. After all that backbreaking work, all I get is "you've got it easy at home, this lifetime's blessings. They're all yours now." I chuckled. Soo-seong. You're right, it's your turn to live the good life this time around. Let's see how you handle those tough times yourself. I grabbed my luggage and left without hesitation, but there stood Qinglin at the foot of the stairs, rubbing his hands nervously as if mustering all his courage. He stammered, "Sushi, I've started a studio, would you?" "I'll help you," I said. In his past life, Qinglin started a studio before even graduating. It became a running joke among his classmates for a while. Nobody took the ordinary Qinglin seriously, they all mocked him for being delusional. This time around, even if he doesn't come looking for me, I'll go find him myself. I want to work alongside like-minded people. This time, I'm going to be the queen of my own destiny. Though Qinglin speaks little, he handles every task with meticulous care and near-perfect execution. On the day I officially joined Qinglin's studio, Shin Mo and Soo-seong got married. The two even made a special trip to my studio just to deliver their wedding invitation. Shin Mo wrapped an arm around Soo-seong, scanned my shabby workspace, and mocked, "Such short-sightedness." Then turning to Soo-seong, he declared, "Darling, I'll give you the good life, 100 times better than hers." Soo-seong smugly agreed. I smiled faintly. "You don't know yet, do you? The treasure you're talking about is actually just as poor as you are." Another village pauper. Shin Mo froze momentarily upon hearing this, clearly still under the illusion that Soo-seong was some rich heiress. Soo-seong immediately started screaming at me, "Sushi, you bastard, can't stand seeing me live well, can you? You're just jealous." I shook my head. What exactly is there to be jealous of? That you picked up some trashy man, or that you're dirt poor? I'm just stating facts. Soo-seong was born into a poor rural family. With her college tuition painstakingly collected house by house from fellow villagers, yet at school, she carried herself like an heiress, decked in designer labels and chauffeured in luxury cars. Over time, classmates assumed she came from old money, only I knew the sordid deals behind her polished facade. That's why Shin Mo rushed into marriage with her. I guess he thought Soo-seong came from a wealthy family and could help him fast-track back to his previous life's trajectory. After all, in his past life, it was my parents' dowry that bankrolled his later success. Now that he's heard Soo-seong is just a poor girl, he's completely dumbfounded. After a long pause, he asked hoarsely, "Is what she said true?" Soo-seong hung her head guiltily, remaining silent. Seeing Soo-seong didn't deny it, Shin Mo flew into a rage and stormed off without looking back. I poured fuel on the fire from behind. If you're short on cash, why not have her hit up those old geezers for donations? After this incident, Soo-seong's dirty laundry got aired, and her wealthy heiress persona completely collapsed. From then on, everyone mocked Shin Mo as the gullible nice guy who got played. 8. Shin Mo's very public divorce proceedings with Soo-seong over these scandals became the talk of the town. With her secrets exposed, Soo-seong simply dropped the act altogether. Every day she'd stir up trouble at home, verbally abusing Shin Mo at best and physically beating him at worst. Even Shin Mo's vicious mother, who'd been utterly cruel to me, was completely subdued in the process. Hearing about these wretched affairs left me utterly unfazed. Countless times I've thanked my lucky stars for this second chance to escape that wretched man. I thought Shin Mo and I would never cross paths again in this lifetime. Then my mother called, demanding I come home immediately. When I got back, I found Shin Mo kneeling before my parents in tears. I almost forgot, in my past life, Shin Mo knelt before my parents just like this, professing his love, promising to cherish me forever, and begging for their blessing on our marriage. Seeing his impoverished background yet his refusal to demand a dowry, my parents instead gifted me a substantial bridal endowment. It was precisely this dowry that became Shin Mo's turning point, transforming him into the envy of all as a wealthy man. But this time, he's already legally married to Soo-seong. How dare he show his face here? God knows what sweet talk he fed my dad. Dad glared at me and snapped, "What on earth did you do to that poor boy? Look how you've tortured him." "Exactly, things were going fine, why stir up trouble?" Mom chimed in, "Shin Mo already apologized to us, what more do you want?" Shin Mo kept his head down, but the smug glint in his eyes gave him away. My parents helped him up and shot me a disapproving look. "Don't worry," they said, We'll make sure justice is served in my past life. A few malicious rumors from others drove my parents and me apart completely, so hearing them say such things now doesn't surprise me in the slightest, but Shin-mo, now that's some next level audacity. I smirked coldly. Mom, Dad, did you know he's already married? I wish my parents would stop pestering me even after learning he's married. But my father blurted out, just get divorced, what's the big deal? You were born from my second marriage with your mom anyway. Men make mistakes sometimes, that's perfectly normal, why make such a fuss? My dad said it so casually, while my mom kept nodding in agreement. Nobody cares whether my marriage is happy or not. I ended up secretly messaging Soo-seong, let the villains deal with each other. I turned to leave, but Shin-mo stopped me. If Soo-seong weren't a fraud, I wouldn't be begging you like this. Have you forgotten? We need that money from your parents to get started. You've had your tantrum. Could you at least consider my feelings? Don't you miss living that comfortable, carefree life of luxury like in your past life? I listened quietly. The more he spoke, the more absurd it became. Comfortable, carefree, luxury. The audacity of this man. Shin-mo, you're the one who's always comfortable and carefree, the one who gets to shine. Look me in the eye and tell me, have I ever had a single moment of peace with you? I spoke with deliberate pauses. Don't forget how you used to call me an embarrassment. Did you really think I'd still chase after you? He froze, momentarily speechless. My parents exchanged confused glances. What are you two talking about? The moment the words were spoken, Soo-seong stormed in furiously. Shin-mo, what the hell do you mean? Think you can just dump me because I'm broke? Dream on. She lunged forward, grabbing Shin-mo by the collar and slapping him twice. We're married, what's your game coming to see this bitch? 9. Hearing this, I slapped her back. Keep your damn fight to yourselves. Mention me again and I'll rip your mouth open. Enraged by the beating, Seong-soo vented her fury on Shin-mo, slapping him repeatedly across the face, provoked beyond endurance. Shin-mo shoved Seong-soo to the ground and hurled a rock at her. Chaos erupted instantly, feathers flew. Howls pierced the air. My parents recoiled in horror at the unfolding spectacle. I blurted out, how could you people even consider throwing your daughter into this living hell? They fell silent, hanging their heads in shame. After that scene, my parents never contacted me again. I threw myself wholeheartedly into the studio work. Jin-lin handled the technical side while I brought in clients. Our teamwork kept improving, and the business kept growing. Meanwhile, Shin-mo remained stagnant. Still convinced his life would magically improve after 2 years of waiting. For our first post-graduation reunion, I put considerable effort into my appearance. That evening, I arrived fashionably late. Before I even stepped into the private room, I heard Shin-mo's voice. Don't even mention her. That shrew makes me sick just looking at her now. If she hadn't tricked me with her tears and pleased to be together, I'd never have ended up with her. Once I'm divorced, I'm going back to sushi. She's my true soulmate. Just being with her turns me into an instant CEO. Cigarette dangling from his lips, he spoke with cocky certainty. His classmates stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Undeterred, he poured himself a drink. Piece of cake. I'll treat you all to Paris when it happens. His remark sparked waves of laughter. Just as I was about to step in, a figure rushed toward me, bringing with it a foul odor. It wasn't until I heard the voice that I recognized it was Soo-seong. After some time apart, she'd completely changed. Gone was her former refinement, replaced by an unkempt appearance. That foul stench was coming from her greasy hair. Shin-mo bolted upright the moment he recognized her. You, Soo-seong lunged at him, raining blows while screaming, we can't even afford food, and you stole my money to party. I must have been cursed in 8 lifetimes to marry such a worthless loser. Is eating, sleeping, gambling and bragging all you're good for? Even the family dog's more useful than you. Shin-mo dodged wildly while covering his head, his practiced evasive maneuvers showing clear signs of frequent beatings from Soo-seong. The classmates in the private room instinctively backed away, munching melon seeds as they enjoyed the spectacle. Not a single soul stepped in to intervene. Just when the 2-person drama couldn't get more intense, Shin-mo's mother came storming in, seeing her son being chased and beaten. She jumped into the fray and started pulling at Soo-seong. Soo-seong immediately turned around and slapped her twice. You old hag, how dare you lay hands on me? Got a death wish or what? Watching that usually domineering mother-in-law cower like a quail after being hit gave me immense satisfaction. In our past life, she'd repeatedly tried to suck up to Soo-seong when Soo was pursuing Shin-mo. After I married Shin-mo, she repeatedly brought up how wonderful Soo-seong was, every time. She'd say how much better it would be if Su Xiang were her daughter-in-law. If only Shen Mo had married Su Xiang, she'd be living the good life. Fine then, this lifetime, let her enjoy that good fortune to her heart's content. The farce ended with all three participants bloodied, exhausted from their brawl. Su Xiang and Mother Shen collapsed to the floor wailing, while Shen Mo dragged them out by their collars. At the doorway, his eyes finally fell upon me leaning against the frame. There I stood, clad in a form-fitting black dress that accentuated every curve, my delicate features perfectly composed. He froze for a split second before lowering his head and attempting to leave. I beckoned the manager over, declaring, "I won't be covering this gentleman's drinks or the damages." Just so we're clear, the manager, understanding the situation, intercepted Shen Mo to demand payment, under the watchful eyes of the crowd. The three of them couldn't scrape together even $1,000 between them. Shen Mo finally left in a huff after reluctantly surrendering his ID and phone. As for me, that night I was showered with compliments and flattery from classmates. The night breeze carried an unusually refreshing crispness. The drinks that night tasted exceptionally fine. My business with Qinglin kept thriving, so we upgraded to a larger studio. Shen Mo remained a deadbeat, mooching off his parents while indulging in mindless pleasures. 10. When drunk, he'd ramble about his past life and all the glory he once had. Even in this new life, he still believed his former glory would come effortlessly. Even now, he refuses to admit that his success came from my contributions. When he learned how Qinglin and I were expanding our business, he couldn't stay on the sidelines any longer. He went straight to Qinglin, his eyes lit up at the sight of Qinglin now, his mouth hanging open in shock. It was clear he had recognized this Qinglin as the future tycoon. Excitedly sitting across from Qinglin, he spoke earnestly, "Qinglin, you'll become the richest man someday. Seriously, trust me, let me join your studio. I'll make you even wealthier. Qinglin, your business will grow massive. You'll have more money than you can imagine." Qinglin responded woodenly, "I know, pft, I couldn't help but laugh, as for you, Qinglin glanced at me, I'll follow Sushi's lead, Qinglin spoke sparingly, but every word carried finality. Clearly, silence won't get you anywhere. He looked at me, and I smiled as I spoke. Even a dog would be welcome, but not you. He stopped me. Don't you think you'd be better off with me on board? No, we wouldn't. He gritted his teeth. Sushi, when you gave me a hard time last time, I knew you still had feelings for me. I almost laughed. After all this time, he's still this full of himself. What exactly do you think I see in you? Your poverty, your failed marriage, your poor hygiene, or your habit of mooching off women while drinking, gambling, and whoring around? I warned you, I'll make your life worse than a dog's. After a long silence, he snapped at me, "This is all your fault. I wouldn't be in this mess if it weren't for you. If not for you, I'd already be halfway to success by now." I was left speechless. It's all my fault. I was too naive back then, couldn't tell a decent person from a snake. Even tofu has more brains than this guy. Every word exchanged with trash like him makes me sick to my stomach. As I turned to leave, he grabbed me. Since it's your fault, just give me some cash. I'll rebuild my empire myself. Consider this your compensation. When I make it big someday. I swung my hand and slapped him. Have some shame, will you? Given a second chance, can't you at least try to salvage your dignity? Qinglin sensed the tension and stepped between us, shouting at Shen Mo, "Get lost." Faced with the taller Qinglin, Shen Mo still chickened out. He shouted over his shoulder while running, "Just you wait, 2 years, only 2, you'll regret ever looking down on me." Qinglin remarked casually, "It's been a while since I've heard someone brag with such artistic flair." Then he turned back and added, "Don't sweat it, just focus on being your best. Karma'll handle the rest." In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed since graduation. Qinglin and I have established branch offices over the past 2 years. 11. I handle external affairs while Qinglin manages internal operations. Everyone knows me as President Su. Yet few recognize President Qing, though Qinglin seems perfectly content with this arrangement. The only time people witnessed President Qing's commanding presence was because of Su Xiang. That day, Su Xiang barged into our company lobby clutching a child, making a scene like a shrew and demanding to see me. With no way to avoid her, I finally stepped out. The disheveled, filthy woman before me was nearly unrecognizable as Su Xiang. The moment she spotted me, she lunged forward, accusing me of ruining her life. "Sushi, is this your doing? You're the reason my life's turned out like this." You knew exactly what kind of scum Shin Mo was. Why'd you push me into this hellhole? This is all your fault, every bit of it, you ruined me. Still screaming curses, she flung the child to the ground before collapsing into a wailing heap herself. From her fragmented curses, I pieced together the story of her life these past 2 years. Shin Mo was a lazy glutton who squandered money on vices, even betraying her countless times for cash. She'd had a child, believing enduring 2 years would bring unimaginable wealth. Instead, her mother-in-law fell gravely ill, and Shin Mo fled, leaving them drowning in debt. She wandered from place to place with her child, constantly evading debt collectors. Hearing my chuckle, she stopped sobbing. You must be delighted to see me like this, aren't you? Delighted? Not exactly, on the contrary. I felt completely composed, only feeling a twinge of pity when I saw that innocent child. Soo-seong, Shin Mo's success in his past life was entirely because of me. Without me, he'd be living worse than a stray dog. And you, did you really think clinging to Shin Mo would bring you wealth? How pathetic is that? How dare 2 worthless losers like you ever mock me? She looked up and muttered to herself, why is fate so unfair? We were both reborn, yet only you succeeded. Because my eyes can gaze tenderly at suffering yet pierce through worldly glamour, these hands can cook delicacies or steer a ship through storms. Because I walk with dignity, cherish life, and cut off toxic people, I enunciated each word deliberately. Soo-seong stared dumbfounded before shaking her head and collapsing to the ground. Seizing the moment when I turned away, she hurled a rock straight at me. If Qinglin hadn't lunged to shield me, that rock would have smashed right into my head. Qinglin snapped, grabbing Soo-seong and dragging her out. Where the hell are security? You all want to get fired, throw her out now. If I see her here again, you're all done. And if anything happens to Miss Sue in this company, I'll make you regret it. What are you standing around for? Get moving. Need me to show you how to do your damn jobs? That was the most Qinglin had ever spoken at once, and the angriest he'd ever been. Everyone froze for several seconds before snapping out of it. Watching Soo-seong being dragged away, I waved my hand to stop them. I walked up to her, looking down with a chuckle. You've got some nerve, daring to have kids in this situation. Not like me, fresh out of college and already drowning in money worries. Seong-soo, to be honest, the way you've become after having a child is truly disgusting. I won't keep you here any longer. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I threw her own words back at her, word for word. She's not worthy of crossing paths with me ever again in this lifetime. That was the day I learned Qinglin had a temper. When he's angry, he terrifies everyone around him. But that fiery temper of his was never directed at me. At work, no matter how much I argued or made a scene, he'd just chuckle and say, whatever you say. I used to tease him that he'd lose face acting like this in public. That roar of anger finally made people notice me. Seeing him, a sudden thought crossed my mind. The right person will bring out the child in you, the wrong person will drive you mad. That's exactly what happened between Soo-seong and me. Extra, a decade later, Qinglin and I were blessed with both a son and daughter, and our company went public. For 10 years, Qinglin loved me as steadfastly as the first day, never letting me suffer any grievances. When my postpartum body changed, he deliberately overate and gained weight to keep me company. After my recovery, he helped me through the weight loss journey. That's when I realized true love stays when you're at your worst. I saw Shin Mo again 2 decades later. That evening, as Qinglin and I strolled hand in hand along the riverbank, we encountered a disheveled beggar, hunched, filthy, reeking of decay. As we brushed past each other, I heard him muttering under his breath, Sushi, sushi, if only I'd married Sushi back then. I paused momentarily, and he too came to an abrupt halt. Those timid, clouded eyes peered at me through a wild tangle of white hair. In that instant, his deeply lined face bore the marks of a lifetime's hardship and despair, his frail body trembling as his unsteady gait grew more pronounced. The despair in his eyes plunged into the abyss, as if I'd seen something utterly revolting. I covered my nose and dragged Qinglin away in haste. When we were at a distance, I heard a furious roar, Sushi, if I'd married you back then, damn how good life would be now. Story 2, I was abducted since I was a child and endured severe beatings and torture. Later, I was lucky enough to be rescued and married a handsome but poor husband. Even more fortunately, when I was 7 months pregnant, my biological parents found me. It's just a pity that I died together with the fetus in my womb on the way home to recognize my relatives. That night, several private planes arrived in the port late at night, shocking both sides of the Shanjiang River. No one knew that the man who stepped down the gangway full of murderous intent, He was Qin Jiuchuan, a big shot in the Hong Kong circle who had retired for many years, and also, the man I had been married to for 3 years. He was still wearing the cheap shirt I bought for him, but I, who had personally fastened the buttons of his shirt every day, would never come back. 1. When I was pushed into that pit which was more than 2 meters deep, I only focused on protecting my bulging belly. As a result, my entire face was scratched and my left leg was broken. The swirling clods of earth hit my face and body. Soon, this deep pit would be filled in. Enduring the intense pain, I dragged my broken leg and knelt at the bottom of the pit, kowtowing and begging for mercy continuously. It didn't matter if I died, but my child was already 7 months old. The neighbor granny often said that a fetus at 7 months has a chance to survive while at 8 months it may not. If there was a chance to give birth to him now, it would be a way out. She seems to be about to give birth. Someone seemed to feel a bit sorry and said in a low voice, but it was quickly interrupted forcefully, "Stop talking so much nonsense. Take the money and eliminate the disaster for others. Let's continue." I slumped to the ground, hugging my belly, and slowly raised my head to look at the several people standing on the high ground. "Big brother, her eyes are too scary. If she dies like this, will she become a ghost and come to take revenge on us? Look at how cowardly you all are." The man said this, but the end of his voice also trembled a bit. "Maybe we should blind her. If she can't see, she won't be able to take revenge on us." "Yes, big brother, she's about to give birth. This is a huge sin. There are 2 lives at stake. Then gouge out her eyes." The man pulled down the brim of his hat, covering half of his face. He pulled out a dagger and jumped into the deep pit. At this moment, the moonlight became brighter and brighter. In my last glance, the dagger reflected the moonlight, flashing a cold light. I saw a sunken scar shaped like a centipede at the corner of the man's mouth. 2. When Qin Jiuchuan got off the private plane, he was still wearing the cheap shirt I bought for him that morning. I fastened the buttons for him as usual and found that one button was loose, so I casually sewed it on. But I wasn't very smart and my hands were clumsy. I sewed it crookedly. I even accidentally pricked my hand. After getting married, Qin Jiuchuan spoiled me a lot. Gradually, I became a bit delicate under his care. I even lay in his arms and cried for a while. The blood on my hand rubbed onto that wooden button. Perhaps because of this drop of blood from my fingertip. After I died, my soul didn't dissipate. It actually floated to Qin Jiuchuan's side like this. 3. I saw several private planes and nearly 100 luxury cars. They were in a mighty procession, so numerous that the end could hardly be seen. After Qin Jiuchuan, wearing old clothes and full of murderous intent, stepped down the gangway, he was immediately surrounded by many people in black suits. "Master Qin, why did you suddenly return to Hong Kong? Is there something big going on, Master Jiu? We haven't heard from you for several years. Brothers have been missing you and thinking of you every day. Master Jiu, you won't leave again after you come back this time, right?" I was a bit dazed. I looked at Qin Jiuchuan and then at those people with excited and admiring expressions. Why were they calling him Master Qin and Master Jiu? They seemed to respect and fear him very much, and he didn't say a word from beginning to end. His eyebrows and eyes were slightly lowered, and his face was full of coldness. The crowd gradually calmed down. The people who had been speaking also fell silent. The air seemed to have solidified, and there was a deathly silence. I was a bit scared. I couldn't help but float over and hide in Qin Jiuchuan's arms. "Husband, Shally is scared." I hugged him tightly and said in a low voice, but he couldn't feel me. There was no response at all. The aura he exuded all over his body was even more chilling. I couldn't help but shiver and felt a bit wronged. "Husband, hug Shally." 4. Since I was a child, I was terrified by the human traffickers' beatings. Because I was fair and lovely, and also smart and clever, the human traffickers specifically chose wealthy buyers and sold me at a high price. But I could clearly remember all the information about my family, and I refused to call those buyers mom and dad. They were afraid that I couldn't be tamed, so they could only return me. Every time I was returned, I would be severely beaten by the human traffickers. After several times like this, I almost lost my life. I was finally scared. I gradually forgot what my biological parents looked like. I forgot every little thing that happened before I was 5 years old. Even in the end, I completely forgot my own name. The last time I was returned, I suffered the most severe beating. I got injured on my head and was no longer as intelligent as I was when I was young. I became clumsy and my movements were also a bit slow. After trying several times, the people who abducted me simply gave up. They were going to cut out my tongue or break my hands and legs to make me a beggar to earn money for them, but I was very lucky. On the eve of their planned action, I was rescued by a kind-hearted person and sent to an orphanage. After that, I grew up and studied in a stumbling way. I found the most ordinary job and could barely support myself. Often, people said that I was a fool, but in fact, I just lived a simpler and purer life than ordinary people. I was just stubborn and a bit single-minded. Qin Jiuchuan also said the same, who said our Shally is a fool. He would touch my face, kiss me, and coax me gently. Our Shally can work, earn money, and also make the most delicious scrambled eggs with tomatoes. She's very useful. Every time he said this, I was extremely happy. What I was most afraid of was being thought of as useless, and Qin Jiuchuan would carefully use one small thing after another every time. He convincingly told me that Jiangli was not a fool or a useless person, just like when I learned to sew clothes for the first time. Qin Jiuchuan even specifically circled that page on the calendar. Then, holding my hand, he wrote a line of small red words beside it. The anniversary of Jiangli learning to sew clothes, 5. At this moment, I looked at the crookedly sewn button on his shirt. I couldn't help but feel a bit ashamed. I wanted to take it off and find an opportunity to sew it on again, but I forgot that I was already dead. My fingers were like transparent light, passing through that button. I was dead, and my child with Qin Jiuchuan was also dead. I slowly lowered my head and looked at myself as a ghost. My belly was still bulging, but inside, there would be no more fetal movements. Qin Jiuchuan, I murmured his name, wanting to cry like a child regardless of everything as I did when I was wronged before, but I couldn't cry, and I didn't even have any tears. I reached out my hand again, feeling wronged and wanting to hug him, but my whole body passed through his. This time I'm back in Hong Kong for only one thing. Qin Jiuchuan, who hadn't spoken since getting off the plane, suddenly spoke. What on earth is the big thing that can alarm you, Master Qin? Yes, Master Jiu. What exactly happened? The people surrounding him all had panicked expressions on their faces. Qin Jiuchuan slowly raised his hand and gently stroked the crookedly sewn button on his shirt. His voice was calm, and he said word by word in a deep voice, 3 years ago, I married a wife. 2 days ago, she went missing. Qin Jiuchuan's knuckles clenched tightly, and he suddenly raised his head to look at the people in front of him. His face was as cold as frost, but there was a turbulent and sinister in the bottom of his eyes. When she went missing, she was still 7 months pregnant. When Qin Jiuchuan said this, the corners of his thin lips actually curled into a smile. His voice became even softer, and it could even be called calm. The first thing is to bring the person back to me unharmed. The second thing is to find out who did it. I, Qin Jiuchuan, will skin him with my own hands. 6. When Qin Jiuchuan got out of that ordinary black Volkswagen, it was almost dawn. He didn't change his clothes and was still wearing that cheap old outfit. He didn't bring anyone with him either. It was just him alone. He stood there desolately in front of the exquisite carved iron gate, looking rather down and out. I floated down from the car with him and stared at the mansion in front of me in astonishment. So, this was the home of my biological parents. When the gate opened and Qin Jiuchuan walked in, I saw a very young and beautiful girl wiping her tears and quickly coming up to greet him. I was stunned and stared at the girl. This must be the adopted daughter named Shinju that my parents mentioned, but I didn't expect that she would be so beautiful. I stood there stupidly until Qin Jiuchuan walked up to them. I had to follow him due to the suction force. Brother-in-law, with red eyes. Shinju choked up and called out. Then, her tears fell one after another. I couldn't help but open my eyes wide and stared in amazement. How could a girl look so beautiful and pitiful when she cried? It was not like me. When I encountered something and was bullied, I would just cry loudly like a child. When I couldn't stop crying, I would wipe my tears and snot on Qin Jiuchuan's clothes, without any image at all. I couldn't help but look at Qin Jiuchuan. His face was still calm, and he just glanced at Shinju politely before looking away. How are my father-in-law and mother-in-law? After hearing the news that sister was missing, Mom fainted on the spot. Shinju sobbed softly. Mom and Dad are waiting inside. Brother-in-law, let me lead you in. Okay, thank you. Qin Jiuchuan followed Shinju and walked towards the main building. When Shinju turned around and raised her hand to wipe her tears, she accidentally sprained her foot. I saw Qin Jiuchuan reach out and steady her firmly. Be careful. Shinju quickly stood up straight, her cheeks turning slightly red. She thanked him in a low voice with a bit of embarrassment. Thank you, brother-in-law. 7. Qin Jiuchuan raised his hand to signal her to lead the way. After walking a few steps and bypassing a flower tree, I couldn't see his figure anymore, but I didn't want to follow anymore. I was also a bit annoyed. Why, even as a ghost? I was still so narrow-minded and easily angered, but it was useless for me to be petty now. Qin Jiuchuan couldn't see me, couldn't feel me, and of course wouldn't coax me, and my soul couldn't be too far away from Qin Jiuchuan either. I followed them into the main building with a sullen expression. After Qin Jiuchuan sat down, I tried to stay as far away from him as possible and squatted gloomily beside a vase, starting to bite my nails. In fact, I didn't have a deep obsession with my biological parents, first, because it had been too long and I had really forgotten a lot. Moreover, after my head was injured, I had very simple thoughts and was very stubborn. Second, because in my subconscious, I seemed to think that my parents probably wouldn't want a foolish daughter. After all, their adopted daughter was so beautiful and likable. 8. Jiuchuan, has our precious daughter suffered a lot all these years? My mother tremblingly grasped Qin Jiuchuan's hand. Her head was full of white hair, and her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She looked at Qin Jiuchuan earnestly, and her tears rolled down. This child won't say anything no matter what I ask. She just says that she's living well and that you treat her well, but I know in my heart that since she was abducted when she was a child, how could she not have suffered? Her father and I have been thinking of her and missing her. After 20 years, we finally managed to look forward to her coming home. Why did she go missing when everything was fine? She's still pregnant with a baby. I don't know where she is these 2 days, whether she can eat enough or sleep well. She kept muttering until my father interrupted her. Okay, you've asked so many questions. How can Jiuchuan answer them? Zhenju also stepped forward and helped her sit down. She held Zhenju's hand and shed tears. And Zhenju also cried silently. I didn't know when, but I floated up and knelt down in front of her and my father. At such a close distance, I saw that her beautiful face was full of weariness and sadness. I saw the turbid tears in my father's eyes. Even Zhenju, her grief was so genuine. Mom, Dad, seeing my biological parents in person was completely different from talking to them over a long telephone line. That connection of blood relationship was instantly awakened. I wanted to hug them and comfort them so much, but I couldn't anymore. Mom, Dad, I've already sent people to look for Xiaoli. I believe there will be news soon. Moreover, Xiaoli is kind by nature and has never made enemies with anyone. She will definitely be fine. Qin Jiuchuan's tone was particularly firm, making people believe him when they heard it. My mother was probably comforted, and her eyes instantly lit up. Jiuchuan, are you serious? Of course. Qin Jiuchuan stood up. In the next few days, you two should take good care of your health. Leave Xiaoli's matter to me. I will definitely bring her and the child home. He walked out, and I could only follow him out. Zhuer, quickly send your brother-in-law off for us. Zhenju quickly wiped her tears, nodded, and stepped forward. No need. Qin Jiuchuan stopped and turned back to look at Zhenju. I will trouble you to take care of my in-laws for me and Xiaoli in the next few days. This is my duty. It's what I should do. Zhenju quickly said. Qin Jiuchuan nodded, said no more, and strode out. I was reluctant to leave. When I met the eager gazes of my parents, I wished I could stay by their side even more, but I could only follow Qin Jiuchuan and leave. Until I got in the car, my mood became even more depressed. Just as the car started, Qin Jiuchuan suddenly looked out of the window. Did you see clearly the car that just went in? The driver said in a low voice. I noticed it when we came here. It's a car from the Song family. The Song family and the Zhen family are sworn relatives. Mrs. Zhen and Mrs. Song are the best of friends. Qin Jiuchuan nodded thoughtfully. Since that was the case, it was only natural for Mrs. Song to come and visit when such a thing happened in the Zhen family. Drive. Qin Jiuchuan leaned against the car seat and closed his eyes wearily. Then he raised his hand and gently touched that coat button. I sat in the corner of the back seat and refused to go to his side, but after touching the button, he seemed to think of something, and a smile appeared in his eyes again. Silly girl, he murmured, and the smile in his eyes gradually faded. When you come back, I will definitely give you a good beating. Jiangli, Qin Jiuchuan, always keep my word. I couldn't help pursing my lips and stretched out my hand, wanting to touch his face. I'm almost due to give birth, and you still want to hit me? Do you know how scared and how much pain I was in at that time? Qin Jiuchuan, you still want to hit me when I come back, but looking at him at this moment, all I felt was full of heartache. Qin Jiuchuan, it's impossible in this life. If there is a next life, I must grow old with you. 9. As soon as the car arrived at the hotel, an old man with a walking stick and white hair and beard came over. Supporting him was a young girl with short hair. looking very valiant, Jiuchuan. Have you visited your father-in-law and mother-in-law? Qin Jiuchuan stopped, his gaze swept across the girl's face, and then he slightly nodded. Old Zhou, why are you here? I've heard about your matter. Old Zhou let out a sigh and patted his shoulder. Don't worry, in this place of Hong Kong City, there's nothing you can't handle. Qin Jiuchuan's voice was very calm. I have been away from Hong Kong City for several years, even though you're not in the underworld anymore. There are still legends about you everywhere in the underworld, Old Zhou joked, and then pointed to the girl beside him. This is my granddaughter, Song Yingnan. He sighed as he spoke. It's a pity, the child of the Zhen family was born in the same year as Yingnan. If nothing had happened back then, with the relationship between their mothers, they would definitely have been the best of sisters. Brother Jiuchuan, I've heard your great name for a long time. But only after seeing you do I know that seeing is believing. Song Yingnan stepped forward generously to greet him. Qin Jiuchuan's gaze fell on her face. I also looked at her. This girl and Zhenju are two completely different types. Zhenju is as delicate and pitiful as a weak little white flower, especially the kind that makes men feel sorry for her. And Song Yingnan, she is full of heroism, generous, and very likely to be liked by girls. If I had to choose, I would probably also be willing to be friends with her, rather than Zhenju, whose tears are like pearls when she cries. At this moment, she looked at Qin Jiuchuan, her eyes shining brightly, full of admiration. I'm also a girl, although I'm a bit stupid, but I can still tell that beneath her admiration, there is also the shyness and affection of a little girl. However, she is so magnanimous and pure that it's hard to dislike her. Qin Jiuchuan probably doesn't dislike her either. His tone of voice when speaking to her is also very gentle, just like an elder brother. So you're Yingnan, you don't look much like you did when you were a child. Song Yingnan smiled shyly. I was greedy for food when I was a child and was chubby. Qin Jiuchuan also smiled and said to Old Zhou, it's really true that a girl changes 18 times as she grows up. What, a girl changes 18 times as she grows up? I glared at him angrily and walked to the shade of a tree and squatted down. My wife and child have just died for a few days. He has the mood to flirt with others. Before, he looked heartless and loveless when facing Zhenju. Now, when he sees Song Yingnan, he has this kind of attitude. In fact, I have vaguely understood something in my heart. Since that night when Qin Jiuchuan got off the private plane, hundreds of luxury cars came to pick him up, and countless big shots who looked important surrounded him. I vaguely realized that the husband in my eyes, who is very handsome but not very rich, probably has another side that I don't know at all. I've been married to him for 3 years. I always thought he was an ordinary person who was not successful. I have always been determined to live an ordinary life with him for the rest of my life, but now it seems, I, Jiangli, am really a fool. Qin Jiuchuan and the others entered the hotel. This time, I really don't want to follow anymore. I'm already dead. And the boundary between life and death is difficult to cross. It's the most correct thing for us to return to our respective worlds. What's the use of my soul being trapped here? Could it be that I have to watch Qin Jiuchuan marry and have children again in the future? It's not that I don't want him to start a new life, it's just that I'm very narrow-minded. I still hope that for my sake, he can at least keep his loyalty for 3 years. At the very least, 1 year or half a year. 10. On the night of the 3rd day after my death, a male corpse was fished out of the sea. The preliminary identification showed that his time of death should be within 48 hours. No signs of human injury were found on the corpse for the time being. The police said that it was very likely that he fell into the water due to drunkenness and carelessness. When Qin Jiuchuan rushed there, of course, I followed, but at that time, Qin Jiuchuan had already taken a shower and changed his clothes. My soul was floating around, and it was already very difficult for me to get close to him. When I saw the bloated face of that male corpse soaked in water, I was a bit surprised, but not unexpected. I was very familiar with that ferocious scar at the corner of his mouth. It was sunken like a centipede. Before I died, by the light of the moon, I saw it very clearly. He took money to kill me. And now he has been silenced and thrown into the sea. In a way, it's a case of retribution. Professional, the kind who does things for money. He has a high value. He has a good reputation in the underworld these years. Qin Jiuchuan's face was cold. Follow this lead and investigate. Lord Jiu, do you suspect that he is related to the disappearance of Madame? Qin Jiuchuan didn't say anything, but slowly raised his hand. He was used to touching that button again, but he stopped his hand. After a while, he spoke again. Don't let go of the slightest clue. Also, spread my words. Now, As long as they release the person, I, Qin Jiuchuan, promise that I will not hold it against them. Yes, Lord Jiu. Qin Jiuchuan stood by the sea. After a long while, he turned around and walked towards the car, perhaps because the wind and waves by the sea were strong. His steps actually staggered. Under the moonlight, I saw his face, which was a pale and gloomy white. I know that a person as intelligent as him has probably sensed something ominous, it's just that he doesn't want to believe it. 11. When I followed Qin Jiuchuan back to the hotel where he was staying, I suddenly found that my body was gradually becoming blurred, as if it was about to dissipate. I tried my best to float forward and stumbled to keep up with him. When Qin Jiuchuan returned to the room, he went to look for that old shirt, but he couldn't find it anywhere. He got angry and called someone to ask, Jiu, Lord Jiu. Miss Song saw it and took it to wash. It has been washed and ironed already. Who told you to touch it? Who told you to act on your own? This was the first time I saw him lose control of his emotions after my death. He grabbed the collar of the man in front of him and almost lifted him up entirely. Husband, I was extremely anxious and rushed forward to stop him, but I just passed through his body in vain. And that person was almost choked to the point of suffocation by him. Qin Jiuchuan, I murmured his name. Don't be like this. Don't be like this. I don't like you like this. I'm afraid of you like this. When I stepped forward again and wanted to hug him, a tear suddenly fell from my sore and swollen eyes. That cold tear landed on the back of Qin Jiuchuan's neck. He trembled violently, slowly released his hand, and looked behind him. But the room was empty. By the balcony, the wind blew the white gauze, creating blurred light and shadows. Shaoli, he murmured and looked around blankly. He stretched out his hand in vain, trying to grab something in the air. Shaoli, stop being naughty. His voice was hoarse, and he seemed a bit helpless. He smiled with red eyes. Be good, okay, Shaoli. 12. I saw the hand I stretched out, which was almost transparent, and my consciousness also seemed to be gradually dissipating. I saw that on the half-open terrace, there was a very small baby sitting there. When I looked over, he waved his chubby little hand and smiled at me. Mom, I've come to pick you up. My tears suddenly welled up uncontrollably. Qin Jiuchuan, don't be like this. I don't want you to be sad. I don't want to see you sad. He slowly knelt down on the ground. Shaoli, I heard the uncontrollable crying. His hands clenched into fists, and he smashed them hard on the floor one by one. Gradually, they became bloody and blurred. I also knelt down, wanting to hug him. But my hand passed through his body again. Mom, it's time for us to go. The little baby somehow came to my side. He tugged at my sleeve, urging me to leave, but I couldn't bear to leave. I don't want to leave Qin Jiuchuan. I haven't been his wife enough. 13. But my child had already taken my hand and turned to leave. We floated all the way through the swaying white gauze and reached the terrace. The moonlight was just right, and the silver light was scattered. It was just like the moonlight on the night when I was pushed into the deep pit and my eyes were stabbed. And this time, I was about to say goodbye to Qin Jiuchuan forever. I couldn't help but look back, wanting to take one last look at him. The baby beside me gently tugged at my finger. Mom, don't look back. It's time to go. I looked at him. He should be a little boy, because his eyebrows and eyes are very much like mine, even at the corner of his left eye, just like me. There is a very small light red mole. I've often heard people say that sons are like their mothers, and daughters are like their fathers, so I've always wanted to have a daughter. I always felt that I wasn't good-looking enough, but Qin Jiuchuan was really handsome. But now it seems that he is really adorable and cute. If Qin Jiuchuan could see him, what kind of expression would he have? This is a real little Ollie. I squatted down and hugged him. Baby, Mom doesn't want to go, but if we don't leave, your soul will be scattered. I touched his chubby little face. My fingers were cold. His little face was also cold. I know that people and ghosts are from different worlds. I also know that if this goes on, I will be completely annihilated. The last connection between me and Qin Jiuchuan has completely disappeared. I may not even be able to get close to him anymore, but I can't bear to leave him. I just want to look at him more and accompany him. I hugged him tightly in my arms. Just like every time I threw myself into Qin Jiuchuan's arms before, I cried like a wronged child. Mom, the little baby held my finger tightly. I saw that my finger, which had been almost transparent and about to disappear, gradually took on a contour again, but my child gradually became blurred. Baby, I tried to grab him, but for the first time, I missed. He slowly floated into the air, looking at me, smiling immaturely and cutely. At the moment when he was about to disappear, he threw himself into my arms again. Vaguely, I felt that he seemed to have kissed my face, and there was a sob in his voice. But you have to wait for the baby to come back. You and Dad can't forget the baby. Suddenly, there was a wind that swept through the white gauze on the terrace. Shally, is that you? I opened my eyes wide, but I could only vaguely see Qin Jiuchuan's figure. The fluttering white gauze had returned to calm. The little baby was also nowhere to be found. I curled up on the floor under the white gauze, with injuries all over my body and face. Qin Jiuchuan, can you see me now? I tried to sit up, but my arms had no strength. But in the next moment, my whole body floated into the air lightly, a scorching breath fell, and then, there were large drops of hot tears. Dripping bit by bit, they burned the wounds on my face, causing a stabbing pain. Shally, he kissed me like a madman. Do you know that you almost scared me to death? Jiangli, do you know that? Jiao, Lord Jiao, are you okay? Lord Jiao, who are you talking to? The few people who had just entered the room stood there dumbfounded. It turned out that I hadn't come back to life. It turned out that only Qin Jiuchuan could sense me and see me. 14. Many people in the Hong Kong city circle have been gossiping privately. They say that Qin Jiuchuan has been greatly stimulated by the fact that his pregnant wife has been missing for several days and there is still no news. He has become a bit crazy. He often talks to himself, sometimes laughing and sometimes crying. He even asked people to buy a lot of medicine and smear it on the air. In short, his actions are very strange. Some of his trusted subordinates are very worried. They are thinking about whether to find someone to take a look and exorcise the evil. But Qin Jiuchuan suddenly returned to the mainland late at night and went to Pujiu Temple overnight. The Buddha's light shines brightly. There are 999 steps in Pujiu Temple. The incense is very prosperous, but I'm a ghost and can't get close, so I don't know what Qin Jiuchuan did during those 3 days and 3 nights. When he came down from the mountain, he looked haggard and couldn't even walk. He was helped out of the mountain gate by his several subordinates. I was extremely worried and floated over to hug him tightly. Qin Jiuchuan, what's wrong with you? What did you do? Why did it take you so long to come down from the mountain? He looked at me weakly, touched my face, and smiled gently. It's okay, Shally, let's go home. Is it really okay? I was still very worried, trust me. Qin Jiuchuan held my hand and pulled me into his arms. The people around him seemed to have long been used to him talking to himself like this. They just stood there with their heads lowered. My heart settled down, and I began to feel tired. I lazily yawned and pressed my face against his chest. I'm so sleepy. Then you can sleep for a while. He gently touched my face, then lowered his head and kissed me. Call me if you feel uncomfortable anywhere. I was too sleepy to open my eyes and mumbled in a daze. Okay. I slept for a long time. When I woke up, Qin Jiuchuan brought me warm water and a pill. I couldn't see, but my sense of smell was still there. The pill smelled strange. I immediately shook my head. I'm not taking the medicine. I hate taking medicine the most. Shally, be good. I don't want to. You only need to take 1 pill a day. After 49 days, you can come back. Shally, don't you want to stay with me and be together forever? Of course I did. But how could it be possible? Then will you listen to me? But Qin Jiuchuan, he hugged me tightly, his voice a little weak. Have I ever broken my promise to Shally? Have I? I nodded involuntarily. Indeed, Qin Jiuchuan had never broken his promise to me. He fed me the pill and then took out some candies to coax me. I frowned, held the candy in my mouth, and complained to him, I don't like it, just bear with it for my sake. Okay. I nestled into his arms. The candy melted on my tongue, bringing a wave of sweetness. Qin Jiuchuan, aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? Look at me now. I'm neither human nor ghost. Qin Jiuchuan suddenly tightened his arms. How could there be a man in this world who is afraid of his own wife? But my face, my eyes, I'll avenge you. I'll make you look the way you used to be. What if I can't go back to the way I was? Then I'll be your eyes. Shally. 15. On the 7th day after my death, things suddenly took a turn. The man who had slashed my eyes and was then silenced. His wife suddenly went to the police station with their young child. I couldn't hold on anymore. She was a pregnant woman, 2 lives. After my husband got drunk and told me about this, I haven't been able to sleep well for a single day. Before he died, he told me to take the child and the money and leave Hong Kong. But before we could leave, he died without any clear reason. I've been having nightmares every day these past few days. I'm also a mother. And my conscience has been tormenting me too much. Here are some things he left me. He originally kept these pieces of evidence to save his own life. The woman collapsed to the ground, crying, and took out a pile of miscellaneous things from her bag and handed them to the police. but now that he's dead, what's the use of keeping them? Instead of relying on them to save my life and my child's, I'd rather trust the police. These pieces of evidence were undoubtedly very important. The most crucial ones were the evidence of financial transactions between the mastermind who hired the killer and him, as well as the location where the body was hidden. The police quickly launched an investigation. In the end, all the clues pointed to one person, my parents' adopted daughter, the young lady of the Jean family, Shenju. The police went to the Jean family and took Shenju away. Then they rushed to the private horse ranch in the western suburbs. It was a horse ranch that Mrs. Zhen and Mrs. Song had bought together several years ago. Shenju liked horseback riding and often came here. When the police dug up the flattened ground of the racecourse and found my unrotted body, my precious child, my mother let out a heart-rending cry of my childhood nickname and fainted, and my father, his hands shaking, slapped Shenju hard in the face. How could you do such an inhumane thing? We've raised you for 20 years. 20 years, Shenju covered her face. Her face was deathly pale, and she was so scared that she looked like a ghost. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. She just kept repeating these words feebly over and over again, but with ironclad evidence. No one believed her. When the police were about to take Shenju away, she suddenly let out a bitter laugh and knelt down in front of my body with a thud. 16, sister, like mom and dad. I've been looking forward to your return day and night. I've enjoyed the blessings that should have been yours for 20 years, and I remember every minute of it. If possible, I'd even be willing to die in your place and for your child, sister. I know no one wants to believe what I say, but I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. As Zhenju said this, her eyes changed. She bit her lips tightly. Somehow, she had a sharp utility knife in her hand and, without hesitation, tried to slit her throat. Fortunately, the people around her were quick-witted and grabbed her, but the knife still cut her neck, and blood gushed out instantly. The scene was in chaos. Zhenju stood there, holding the bleeding knife, motionless. You're feeling guilty, you're afraid of my revenge, so you want to die. Qin Jiuchuan said coldly. Zhenju didn't respond, she just threw away the knife in her hand. I'll say it again, I won't admit to something I didn't do, even if it means death, but I have no way to clear my name. Brother-in-law, do whatever you want to me. Leaning against Qin Jiuchuan, I suddenly tugged at his sleeve. Qin Jiuchuan, it wasn't her, Shaoli, I can feel it, she didn't do it, she didn't have the intention to hurt me. My tone became firmer. Qin Jiuchuan, I can sense it. She's innocent, she's a good girl. 17, but until there was a new breakthrough, Shenju was still taken away by the police. Qin Jiuchuan wouldn't let anyone touch my body and had it properly placed. Somehow, my body hadn't decayed when it was found. It even looked as if I was just asleep. Qin Jiuchuan, can I really come back? I couldn't help but ask Qin Jiuchuan in a low voice when the crystal coffin was closed. Of course. I never break my promise to you. Qin Jiuchuan pulled me into his arms. Let's go see mom and dad. When we got to the hospital, Mrs. Song was sitting by the bedside, crying. Song Yingnan's eyes were also red as she softly comforted the two of them. This was the first time I had seen Mrs. Song. For some reason, I had a good impression of Song Yingnan, but the moment I saw Mrs. Song, I felt uncomfortable, although I still couldn't see her clearly. There was probably a kind of magnetic field between people, just like when I first saw Qin Jiuchuan. I secretly liked him and wanted to get close to him. When we left the hospital, I whispered to Qin Jiuchuan, I don't like Mrs. Song. Why? She has a good relationship with your mother. I heard that when you were a child, you even recognized her as your godmother. I was bad at expressing myself and couldn't explain why, so I just made up an excuse. I feel like she really wants you to be her son-in-law, so I don't like her. Qin Jiuchuan was stunned for a moment and then laughed. What are you thinking? I'm not. You don't know how sharp a woman's sixth sense is. Besides, you're so powerful and good-looking, you forget that in our small town, as soon as a man with a slightly good condition had a wife who was still alive, matchmakers would come to his house to arrange marriages. What's more, now that I'm dead, there must be a long line of people queuing up to marry you. I never knew you could talk so much. Anyway, I just don't like her, okay? If you don't like her, we won't see her. Qin Jiuchuan lowered his head to kiss me. I felt a little shy and deliberately scared him. I'm a female ghost. If you kiss me, I'll suck your yang energy, then I'll go with you and be a pair of ghost husband and wife. Qin Jiuchuan gently held my face and kissed my lips. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could feel the gentle caution in his kiss. My heart was like it was soaking in warm honey, melting bit by bit. Such a wonderful Qin Jiuchuan. He was my husband, my man, the one I loved the most, an irreplaceable sweetheart. 18. The people around Qin Jiuchuan gradually got used to his strange behavior. Many people even sighed at his deep love. After all, for a man of his status, there was no woman he couldn't have, and I was so ordinary, even considered a fool by others. Once when we met Mrs. Song, she sighed, Bauer had a hard life, but she was also lucky to meet someone as infatuated as you. I wonder what kind of man Ying Nan will marry in the future. Mrs. Song sighed again. My husband and I were a mismatched couple arranged by our parents. This is how our life has been. I just hope that in the future, she can marry a man who loves her wholeheartedly, just like Bauer. On the way back, I asked Qin Jiuchuan, do Mrs. Song and her husband have a bad relationship? I don't know about that. I became curious and urged Qin Jiuchuan to find out. Qin Jiuchuan was rather helpless. Why are you suddenly so nosy? I'm bored, I'm like a wandering ghost every day, and no one plays with me. Qin Jiuchuan immediately felt guilty and heart-wrenching. He quickly sent someone to inquire. It turned out that when Mrs. Song was young, she seemed to have someone she liked, but for some reason, she married a man she didn't love. They only had one daughter, Song Yingnan, and then they lived separately for many years. Perhaps due to her unhappy marriage and loneliness, Mrs. Song interacted frequently with the Zhen family. Sometimes they even spent the New Year together. On the Lantern Festival when I got lost and was abducted, Mrs. Song was at the Zhen family's. Our two families had planned to go to the temple fair and see the lanterns together. Later, I got lost, was abducted, and my life was completely changed. As I listened to the end, my expression gradually became solemn, shallow, in front of my eyes. It was as if I saw a long street illuminated by countless lights. The numerous lanterns were so bright that they hurt my eyes. My father was young and handsome then, and my mother was beautiful and gentle. They held my hand, lovingly calling me Bauer and pointing out the lanterns to me. These were memories engraved in my bones, memories that I couldn't forget even after a small child had endured countless beatings. Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. I murmured softly, Bauer, look. Aren't the revolving lanterns beautiful? Shally, do you want revolving lanterns? I shook my head and stared into the distance. Qin Jiuchuan, I seem to remember something from my childhood. That night, it was Mrs. Song who pointed out the revolving lantern not far away to me. I can't remember what the lantern looked like. I just remember it was very big and very bright. I was attracted and broke free from my mother's hand and ran towards it. My mother chased after me, shouting my name, telling me not to get lost, but I still got lost. Before I could reach the revolving lantern, I was picked up by someone and stuffed into a van. The person covered my mouth tightly. Before I lost consciousness, the last thing I saw was my parents' anxious faces as they cried out my name in the surging crowd. It was her. I tightly grasped Qin Jiuchuan's sleeve. Qin Jiuchuan, it was her. It must have been her. I can feel it, I'm sure. She had someone abduct me. Mom and Dad loved me so much. They wouldn't have abandoned me on purpose. I gradually started crying. Qin Jiuchuan, I don't understand. Why did she do this? Why? I called her godmother. She watched me be born and grow up. Shally, Qin Jiuchuan gently wiped my tears. Heartache, when you get better and come back, you can return to your parents. What about the 20 years of my life that were taken away? What about the 20 years of suffering that Mom and Dad endured? Who will compensate us? Who? Shally. I have an idea, but I need your cooperation. How do you need me to cooperate? I couldn't help but be curious about Qin Jiuchuan's plan. He smiled and whispered in my ear, pretending to be supernatural. It's what you're best at now. Mrs. Song suddenly fell ill. People said that one night, after she came out of the Zhen family's house, she encountered a ghost. It was said that the ghost was the young lady of the Zhen family, who came back to visit her parents out of longing. Unfortunately, Mrs. Song ran into her. The rumors were terrifying, saying that the ghost of the Zhen family's young lady had blood flowing from all 7 orifices and her bones were stark white. Her eyeballs were still hanging on her face, bloody and extremely frightening. Mrs. Song was so scared that she let out a shrill scream. She even lost control of her bladder when she fainted. After finally being revived, she went crazy and started talking nonsense. Let me go. Please let me go. Bauer, I didn't mean to kill you. I really didn't mean to. Please, Bauer, spare me, don't scare me anymore. It's my fault. I shouldn't have had someone abduct you. I shouldn't have been consumed by jealousy. She knelt on the ground, kowtowing everywhere, and refused to get up even when her head was bleeding. Everyone was stunned, but then she suddenly changed her expression and shouted ferociously, "But I fell in love with Zhenheng first. Why did Lanyue steal him from me? If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have married that scumbag surnamed Song. My whole life is ruined. I hate you all. I hate everyone in the Zhen family." She fell to the ground in a sorry state, screaming like she was possessed. Song Yingnan was completely stunned. She wanted to step forward to stop her mother, but Mrs. Song pushed her away. "Why do your family of 3 get to be affectionate in front of me while I have to stay alone in an empty room, married to a scumbag who likes men? Once your daughter was lost, the Zhen family was destroyed. I felt satisfied watching Jiang Lanyue cry every day. This is what you owe me. This is your retribution." But why was Zhen Bauer found again, after 20 years? How could she still be found? "I don't want to die. What I did was just a moment of foolishness. It wasn't my true intention. If Zhen Bauer comes back, I won't be able to live. Moreover, those fools in the Zhen family still don't know what kind of person their son-in-law is. Why does a stupid Zhen Bauer deserve to marry such an outstanding husband? Besides my Yingnan, who in the entire Hong Kong city is worthy of Qin Jiuchuan? The man I liked was stolen by Jiang Lanyue. I won't allow her daughter to steal the man my daughter likes." Song Yingnan's face turned deathly pale, and she slumped to the ground in a daze. "Mom, I've never ever thought of stealing someone else's husband." Mrs. Song stood up straight and slapped her across the face. "Coward, useless thing." Song Yingnan covered her face. "Stop being obsessed. It took 20 years for Bauer to find her way home. Why did you do such a cruel thing? She was pregnant. How could you have the heart to do that?" "I'm cruel. What about Jiang Lanyue?" Mrs. Song covered her face and gradually started crying. "I just told her that I had someone I liked, and the next day, she came to show off the man I liked in front of me. I'll never forget that day. I'll never forget how my best friend stabbed me in the back." "You keep saying she stabbed you in the back and stole the man you liked." Mrs. Song, "I'll just ask you one thing. Did you ever tell Mrs. Zhen who the man you liked was and what his name was? If my investigation is correct, you didn't know his name was Zhenheng until Mrs. Zhen introduced him to you in person. Your crush was never spoken out loud. How could Mrs. Zhen have known? You didn't even know the details of the man you liked. Why do you blame Mrs. Zhen for stealing your sweetheart?" Qin Jiuchuan's questions one after another left Mrs. Song speechless. "I don't care about that. Anyway, she stole my sweetheart, and this is her retribution. Zhen Bauer is dead, along with the child in her womb. This is her retribution. I just want to see her family destroyed." "You're truly insane." Qin Jiuchuan was too lazy to talk to her anymore and asked someone to call the police. When Mrs. Song was being taken away, she seemed to regain her senses for a moment and started crying out that she was possessed and that everything she said was nonsense, but no one believed her words or spoke up for her, including Song Yingnan. 20. Before the police took her away in the car, Qin Jiuchuan let me meet her alone. It was broad daylight, with the sun shining brightly, not the Zhen family's garden at night. After her initial shock, she became much calmer. "You're not dead." "No, I'm dead. The ghost you saw that night was me. It's just that I hadn't regained my normal appearance at that time." Mrs. Song's face turned pale, and she just kept shaking her head. "How is that possible? How can that be? How can a dead person come back to life?" "Yes, how can a dead person be revived? It's just that there are really so many people in this world who love me, and their obsessions are so deep, especially Qin Jiuchuan. If I hadn't come back, he would have left with me, our child, for example. My sister Zhenzhu, whom I had never met but who had been taking care of my parents. For another, even Song Yingnan had been hoping for Zhen Bauer to come home early. She had cried many times when she learned of her tragic death, not to mention Qin Jiuchuan. He had knelt on every step of the 999 steps at Pujiu Temple. He had pleaded with the Buddha for 3 days and 3 nights, offering half of his life in exchange for my return. He made pills every day with his own heart's blood, which allowed my lingering soul to return to the mortal world. The husband I love deeply loves me just as much. He would rather be broken and battered himself than let me stay dead. What you call love isn't true love at all. You think my mother stole your lover, your happiness, and your life, but have you ever thought that it was actually you who destroyed all of this? Song Yingnan stood outside the door, looking lost. Mom, Bauer is right. Losing the one you love is painful, but love isn't everything. Mom, if you had discovered Dad's strangeness after getting married and chosen to have an abortion and get a divorce, would your life have been different? You indulged in the pain of reality, transforming it into terrifying obstinance and hatred, and did such insane things. Song Yingnan closed her eyes in pain. I can't accept it, and I can't forgive you. But who was I doing this for? Who has been thinking about Qin Jiuchuan all these years? So what if it was me? There's nothing wrong with me liking him, but if I hurt others because of it, that would be a huge mistake. I won't deny these feelings because from the very beginning, I knew this was just my own business, having nothing to do with Qin Jiuchuan or the innocent Bauer, but now that you've done such a thing, I'll spend the rest of my life atoning for your sins. Yingnan, what are you going to do? You're my only daughter, you can't do anything stupid, Mrs. Song fell to the ground, sobbing bitterly, but Song Yingnan didn't respond. She looked at me, and I looked back at her quietly. I had liked her since the first time I met her. It seems that first impressions between people can be very accurate, so this is what you look like when you've grown up. Song Yingnan's eyes filled with tears, but there was also a hint of delighted. Bauer, you're as cute and beautiful as when you were a child, Sister Yingnan. I wanted to step forward, but Song Yingnan waved her hand at me. Bauer, I'm leaving. From now on, I'll chant sutras and pray in front of the Buddha, blessing you and Brother Qin. Song Yingnan lowered her head to wipe away her tears. In her last glance, she wanted to look at Qin Jiuchuan but ultimately didn't. 21. After Song Yingnan left, Zhen Zhu, who had been acquitted, was also leaving Hong Kong 6 years ago. She had been lucky enough to find her biological parents. She had delayed reuniting with them because she was worried that my parents would be left alone. Her biological parents were a very kind and simple couple, and she also had a handsome brother who loved her very much, all waiting for her to go home. On the day we saw her off, she cried her eyes out. When I first met her, I had been amazed. How could there be someone in the world who looked so pitiful and beautiful when crying? Come to think of it, I had even been jealous when Qin Jiuchuan helped her up. Now, seeing the man she liked looking at her with such worried and distressed eyes, I secretly scolded myself for being petty. First impressions aren't always completely accurate. There are girls in this world who are beautiful, gentle, and kind, making people feel sorry for them at first sight. Not all girls like this are false and scheming. Bauer, the last person Zhen Zhu hugged was me, sister. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but she was still incredibly beautiful. I'm so glad you're back. You have no idea how happy I am. Does it still hurt? I gently touched the scar on the side of her neck. Zhen Zhu shook her head vigorously. It doesn't hurt at all, sister. It doesn't hurt. What about you? Does it hurt? Were you scared? They hurt you so badly. As she spoke, she was about to cry again, and I quickly comforted her. It's all over now. It's all in the past. Yes. It's all over. It felt like I had had a strange dream. There were many times when I couldn't believe that all these things had actually happened to me. Mom told me it was because there were so many people who loved me and their obsessions were too deep, especially Qin Jiuchuan. If I hadn't come back, he would definitely have left with me. 22. Qin Jiuchuan came to pick me up and take me home, but I snuggled up to my parents and couldn't bear to leave. Mom stroked my hair, her eyes full of tenderness. Go on, you've been staying here for 2 weeks already. We miss you, and so does Jiuchuan. I felt a little shy and stubbornly said, we haven't been apart for long, but I've been away from you for 20 years. As soon as Mom heard this, she was about to cry, and I quickly coaxed her with sweet words and playful behavior. The whole room was filled with laughter and joy. Moments like this were probably what families who had lost their children longed for the most. I'm home, but in this world, how many children are still unable to return to their parents? The laughter, joy, and even the quarrels in ordinary families must be as painful as slow torture for these broken families. I don't have any great ambitions. Naturally, it's also because I don't have the ability to achieve grand goals for now, but once I set my mind on something, I'll try my best to do it perfectly. Although I may be a bit slow and clumsy, I'll eventually reach my goal. My life goal used to be to have enough to eat and wear and spend my whole life with Qin Jiuchuan, but now, it seems I have a new goal. 23. When Mom and Dad saw me off, Qin Jiuchuan's car had just arrived. I had stubbornly said I didn't miss him, but the moment I saw him get out of the car, I couldn't help but run towards him. Mom and Dad looked at each other and smiled, but I didn't care about that. I hadn't seen him for 2 weeks, and I didn't know what he had been busy with. The moonlight was as silver, and the tree shadows were dancing. As Qin Jiuchuan's figure became clearer, I suddenly felt shy and stopped, feeling a bit hesitant to go forward, but he looked extremely handsome today. Under his black coat was a dark blue business suit, his hair was neatly styled, exuding a strong sense of masculinity. When he saw me, he raised his eyebrows slightly, and a smile played on his lips. My heart started pounding uncontrollably. Even though we had been married for 3 years and I had almost become a mother, I was still so easily charmed by his good looks. But if I hadn't been attracted to his appearance back then, there wouldn't have been a relationship between Qin Jiuchuan and me. Bauer, he didn't call me Shally but used my childhood nickname like my parents did. This was the first time he had called me that, and it was incredibly gentle. I felt my heart beating faster and faster, and my cheeks getting hotter and hotter. I could barely stand still. Qin Jiuchuan strode over and hugged me tightly. Bauer, he held my face in his hands and lowered his head to kiss me. I felt so dizzy that I could barely stand. Qin Jiuchuan, I'm so dizzy. Don't be afraid, your husband is here. He picked me up in his arms. Mom and Dad are still here. I buried my face in his arms, too embarrassed to look up. They'll be even happier to see this. He was right about that. Qin Jiuchuan returned to Hong Kong, and his identity was quickly revealed. Previously, when I was dead, it didn't matter to my parents whether he was noble or ordinary, but now the situation is different. They were extremely worried that Qin Jiuchuan might treat me even slightly poorly. Qin Jiuchuan, they all say that you have a lot of money and great power and influence. Although it was all in the past, it's still more than enough to support you now. Then why did you hide it from me after we got married? Were you afraid that I would take your money? Have you ever thought that in the 3 years since we got married, your monthly salary was only 500 yuan, but why was there never a lack of money at home? I was stunned. I didn't spend much, and Qin Jiuchuan didn't have many expenses either, but for 2 people living together, there were still rent to pay, clothes to buy for each season, and occasional dinners at restaurants. This amount of money was never enough. It seemed that I, who had been so naive, only now understood. There was never a shortage of things we needed at home, and whenever I wanted to buy something, there was always money in my wallet. Qin Jiuchuan, and I only had that 500 yuan, but every time it was almost used up. He would quietly replenish it. During those days after our marriage, I had always thought that I was the one supporting the family and my talented but unrecognized husband. As a result, I felt a great sense of achievement and was extremely satisfied, thinking that I was quite capable. But it turned out that long ago, Qin Jiuchuan had made all the arrangements for me. Of course, he could have spent a fortune to take me to live a luxurious life, but he knew me so well that I would be happier relying on my own efforts rather than being pampered, and he was willing to accompany me and fulfill my small joys. I've never thought of anything except making you happy. Will she come back as a ghost to take revenge on us if she died like this? Bauer, because the only happiness I have in this world is seeing you happy every day. 24. Epilogue. Despite the dissuasion of all of us, Song Yingnan became a nun, cutting off her hair and withdrawing from the mortal world. The year after Zhenzhu returned home, she married the person she loved. They were deeply in love, and their life together was very sweet. After Qin Jiuchuan and I returned to Hong Kong, we quickly established an organization to search for abducted children. For the rest of our lives, we will spare no effort in this cause. The 2nd year after returning to Hong Kong, I became pregnant again and gave birth to a son the following year. In the swaddling clothes, I saw a small light red mole at the outer corner of his left eye. After he was born, he cried non-stop, and no one could soothe him. Qin Jiuchuan held him and placed him beside my pillow. I turned my head and gently pressed my face against his small one, as if he smelled my scent. He stopped crying, pressed his face tightly against mine, and gradually fell asleep. Husband, our baby has come back. There was also a look of deep emotion in Qin Jiuchuan's eyes. He bent down and hugged me and the child. Bauer, our family will never be separated again. It's not just our family. Qin Jiuchuan nodded slightly.